you told me the story, and that's one of the things I want you to do today. And that unfolded for us over a couple of years as we got to know each other, and it was pretty damn harrowing to listen to say the least. And so I thought one of the things we could do today is, well, I'd like you to tell your story right from the beginning. You told me about your grandparents and about when you were young, when you were in the hospital. People should know this.
Well, it started off as I grew up with my great-grandparents, and my mother and father gave me to my great-grandparents on my father's side. My great-great-grandparents were there, and my great-grandparents were the ones that grew me up, looked after me, and then when I got put into a residential school, they were there trying to retrieve me back, because they took me from the hospital, right? Like the residential school people grabbed me from the hospital with 3 other kids that time. No English at all, and I got chicken pox, measles, and mumps, right? All in one after another. So I was stuck in the incubator for quite a while, plastic thing, or there's no blankets on you or nothing, because your blankets would get stuck to me. No one seemed to be allowed to come around me. But this young boy, I always remember this story because he's the first one that gave me a toy to play with in this incubator thing, because I had nothing to play with. So I was in this bed, he stacked these books up and threw a toy, and he couldn't completely reach over, so he threw it in and then climbed back down off those books. And I had that toy in my hand, and I guess I was excited just for that toy and him for doing that, right? And
I think you told me that you were on the dock waiting for your grandparents, your great-grandparents, to pick you up.
No. I was in the hospital in the waiting room, and they were down the dock waiting for a taxi, but they got there too late, right? I was already picked up by these people, and I never knew them. And I couldn't speak English to ask what was going on and where was I going. So by the time that happened, I was in this residential school, and it was a big red brick building. And as soon as I got inside those doors, my life changed within seconds, because I got thrown to the floor, and they cut my hair, took all my clothes off, and put these funny-looking clothes on me, and shoes 4 times too big for me. And just a minute.
Yep.
And still get stuff.
Yep.
And I was sitting on my bed. They put me towards, and I wasn't sure what was going on then, because I had these funny looking clothes on, I had a haircut, and they were treating me mean. 3 o'clock came around, there was kids everywhere hanging onto my bed. Very tight, wondering what kind of hospital is this? Why is this? Why are they allowed to run around and I'm not? And these 3 boys were standing there. There's a new kid, there's a new kid. And that was me. And from that day on, those 3 boys became my friends, my blood brother. We grew up together in there for quite a few years. Instead of trying to look after each other's back, I guess you might say. And they were teaching me the ropes of residential school and what not to do and what to do. I still never caught on because I couldn't speak English properly, so I couldn't really understand what they were teaching me. So I got whipped and strapped and thrown in a closet quite a bit because of that not knowing. You could smell all the good food like corn on the cob, roast, stuff like that, and you'd never seen it. It wasn't on your plate, but you could smell it and made your stomach growl really loud because you never got to eat like that. Sometimes your porridge would be moving, and you did the same porridge for days until it's all gone, and they wouldn't change it or renew your big pot of porridge until you ate it all. To this day, I have a hard time with pickles and peanut butter because that's all you got for your sandwich and your lunch. There's no apple, oranges, or juice. It was just that and water, and the water came out of the tap from the school.
You talked about the closet.
So in a closet for five days. Dark closet where you can't stand or sit down properly or lay down. You just sit there with your legs bent up to your chest. It's very dark in there. And when they pull you out of the closet, it's so bright out that you black out for a while. And you wake up on the floor getting kicked around. Get up, do your chores. Oh, you'll get put back in there again. And you're waking up from being kicked around, and then you don't even know what your chores are because you're blacked out when they're telling you what they want you to do. So you get into more trouble because you don't know where your chores are, what you're supposed to be doing. I was in there for 9 years.
What did you think about your family not being there?
I thought, I never really thought more of them. I thought, what did I do so wrong that they left me there? I couldn't figure out what was it that I did that they put me in such a bad place like this. Probably the third time they tried to come around to come and get me, and I seen the RCMP escorting them away from the residential area and escorting them right down to the dock. I told them if they came back, they were going to be put to jail, come back and try to get me. So they never ever came back. So I seen that. So before I seen that, I was blaming my grandparents and my dad because that's who I grew up with. I was mad at them for leaving me in such an awful place and then wondering why they left me there. You know? With the help of my older relatives that were there, made it a little bit easier at the end, because then some of the native people started getting hired to work there at the end of the one before it closed. But before all that, there was pretty. You start to wonder today, where do they find all these neat people? You want to be like that. And then the other one is how could I be like them as supposedly a Christian or whatever, and then treat people like that?
Well, you told me a story about what was done with bodies at St. Mike's and the incinerator.
You know, Jordan, they would wrap these kids up, whether they died from Hep C or tuberculosis, and wrap them up, and they would put them inside this big thing called the incinerator. There's a big drum, really huge drum, about 6 feet tall, maybe taller. And you'd fill that up with paper and put that wrapped child in there. And they would make us light that fire. And the whole town would stink. The whole place of that area would stink. You could smell the body burning.
So you had a long time to think about this, Charles. Why in the world do you think someone would do something like that? Do you have any?
Well, that comes from Jordan. I've never, I often thought about that. Where does that much anger and pain come from? How does it grow like that, And then I wonder, how come these people never got put in jail for what they did wrong?